Hi, I'm Eden Asher, and I'm here with
Teddy Kuhn.
and we will be talking about sports. Um, our main idea is mandatory drug testing high school kids for participating in sports.
We'll
Um,
also be talking about how the parents would react if their kids were getting drug tested in high school with their permission for sports. And
we will go into each point of view. If I was a kid getting the drug test, if I was the kid's parent, how would I react to getting a drug test? And so we're going to get right into it by talking about the pro of being drug tested. The pros of being drug tested as a high school kid before you participate in a sport. You can't cheat. The athletes, it will prevent the athletes from ruining their body, and it will keep the kids out of doing harm to their own body.
but I don't really think there should be a drug test because what high school kid, 15-year-old, 17-year-old is going to take steroids to make themselves better? I know they probably want to get into a college and everything, but I really don't think they'd be taking steroids to make them a better athlete. And I just think it's stupid if you do it. There's no really pro. Maybe yeah, you'll get better at your sport, but I don't you're at such a young age. I just don't think it's really even a thing in high school to take steroids or drugs. Yeah, drugs like marijuana, because all kids get into it at this age, I'd say. And that should be a drug test, but steroids and everything else, I just don't think it's reasonable. I don't believe any kid is going to be taking steroids for get them to better at sports. They can just work hard, and yeah.
All right, let's get into the cons of drug testing a high school kid. It puts a lot of stress on the players and the coaches. Say if you do take steroids or PEDs and it's an unexpected drug test, it will shock them and it'll put a whole lot of stress on them. Um, the players can easily cheat on the drug test if they do. They can ask, say, if it's a pee test, they can ask someone else to pee in their cup who doesn't take steroids or PEDs, and they can just ruin their whole high school sports career and their future after high school if they continue to take steroids.
Yeah, for the cons, I don't think. I mean, yeah, do it for other drugs, not steroids, but weed, uh, any other drugs maybe. But I don't think it's really necessary. I feel like the odds of a kid doing hardcore drugs and they're on a sports team is very low. Also, them doing steroids is very low. I don't think there's any kid doing, maybe for to get them bigger, but I just don't believe high school kids are taking steroids as 15-year-olds to make them better at sports in their
It
to
is. It's also. It's not really a good look for you if that gets around that you take steroids in high school and you cannot play in your high school sports team for whatever reason. But if it's a steroid reason, it's not a good look, and you won't have a good reputation.
colleges look at it.
It's not a good look for you, so I feel like you should just avoid it. So the going off of what Teddy said, the unexpectedly, it would totally shock a kid if they are say they are doing steroids or drugs and it's their senior year of high school and it's a big season for them if they want to go to college
Trying
to
to get
play a
looked at.
sport, and all of a sudden they have to take a drug test and they freak out and then they refuse it. If they refuse it and they're not able to play on the team, then they can't go to college. So it's kind of like the unexpectedly drug test is just it could be a good thing in some situations because people who actually work hard and don't take steroids or use drugs, they have a better opportunity of going somewhere in their future, unlike the kids who take steroids and drugs, because
They put in like
if you take drugs or steroids and then you get drug tested, you'll have no future after because it'll just come up and then there's really no way getting that back.
yeah, they like the kids who don't take it, they put in effort, they try, and I feel like the kids who do take it are just like they're cheating themselves. They're just trying not to work hard, get into college, and then by the time they're in college and they're still using, it's going to have an effect on your body. And by that time, I feel like you're just going to be worn and torn, and everything's not going to go well in your body, and then you're not going to get to the NHL or like any other pro sport.
Yeah, so I think that pretty much wraps it all up. For the conclusion, we're just gonna go in and about our all of our own opinions on all these situations. So my personal opinion is I don't think you should drug test high schoolers only because they're at such a young age from 14 all the way to 18 or 17, maybe 18. And all right, so moving on to what if a high school refuses the drug test for their sport? Um, Personally, I feel like if it was a school, there would be a consequence, maybe in resulting no test equals no sport. If you don't take the test, then um, they're probably assuming that you do take steroids or drugs because if you don't do steroids or drugs, you should just take the test and get it over with. But if you don't, then they'll suspect it. So then they'll maybe say no test, no sport.
Yeah. So no test, no sport. Going off what Asher said, I just think like if you refuse it, like you obviously have something to hide. If you're not doing anything, then there should be no problem. You should take it, and that should be that. But if you are refusing it, then I just think you you're hiding something. You're probably taking drugs or maybe have a chance of taking steroids. But at the end of the day, like if you got something to hide, then I don't know.
Well, I feel it's like it's pretty much there's really no other things to say if you refuse a drug test, then it indicates that you're probably taking something. But if you just take it with no worries, then um, that would be a sign where you don't take them. So there's really nothing else there.
Yeah.
On to the next. How do the parents feel about their kids taking the drug test in school? So, in other words, would the parents be okay with it or would they not be okay with it? There's there's some where the parents would agree with it just so they can find out for their own good if their kids are cheating the system and um, taking steroids or PEDs, and then they'll and if it's and if they pass a drug test and they'll know their kid doesn't do drugs and
There's also like the strict parents who I feel like most strict parents control their kids. I feel like they want to know everything about their kid, and they don't want other people doing stuff to their kids like giving them drug tests. And I feel like that's where this point we're trying to get across is like the big deal is where like would the parents care? And I feel like most of them wouldn't, but then there's also that few that don't want their kids taking anything they don't give them, like drug test, and they want all control of their kid.
Oh yeah, and I feel like it's also a privacy thing
Yeah.
for for the kids and the families of the parents that say no. You could see where they're coming from a little bit because it's their privacy and it's their life, and you should be able. I mean, you're in high school. You shouldn't really think that kids underage are taking steroids or drugs,
Hmm.
and it's a privacy thing. So I feel like there's shouldn't be really any consequences for not taking it. But yeah, moving on. What would the kids' reaction be if it happened unexpectedly? So we kind of already got into that, and
Me as like we are both athletes, and me, I just think it would be kind of dumb. Like I know, like people on I play hockey and people on my team. No, I know no one takes steroids. I know they don't do hardcore drugs. I just think it's like a waste of time and money as like maybe like the athletic director doing it. I just don't think it's worth it because you're just losing money on drug tests. It takes time. It takes stress on the kids, gets them worried, and I I personally don't think it would help any situation at all.
so moving on from our last point, we're gonna just jump right into the conclusion, and the conclusion is our own opinions on all of the drug testing and high school kids. And so I'm gonna let Teddy go first and start it off for
Yeah,
us.
I'll start it off. So about this whole podcast, we gave out some points, the pros, the cons, and the POVs of the parents and kids. And I just think that the point of drug test is I see where people are coming from about doing it. Not really for steroids, not really for steroids, but for other drugs like marijuana, pills, maybe if their kid is even doing them. But I feel like as an athlete, if you really want to go pro or college, you should. They know you're at the old. Yeah, you're at an old enough age to know that you should not be doing that if you want to go to college for your sport. And I see where people are coming from about doing it, like schools, and I just think that they shouldn't because most high school kids are not doing drugs, are not doing steroids, and the environment they're in is hard work, putting in the work for sports in college. And if you're doing drug tests on kids, I feel like you're not giving them trust for their school. You're not giving them trust for their team. And I just don't think it's a good view for your school at all if you're doing drug tests. Like, why would you even do it? And it could ruin a man's future for college. Like, if you do get tested and somehow you got you maybe you like taken someone drugged you or something you didn't know, and then you got taken drug tested and then you got positive, and then colleges look at that and then your future is pretty much ruined already, and they don't do drugs at all.
So I completely agree with Teddy. Com- Coming from all that, I completely agree. Where it's just it's unnecessary. The kids are at an old enough age where you should know you should not take steroids or PEDs or anything like that. And he brought up a good point when he said, say he goes to like a party or a hangout or something, and someone just slips something into his drink or into whatever, and he eats it or drinks it, and it was drugged, and they take a drug test, and boom, his career is over. Um, we also brought up a couple points about the stress and how you can just cheat the drug test. Well, it's a lot of stress it puts on your body when you realize drugs just make it's like it's unnecessary for a school to put that enough stress on a kid for a drug. No one's gonna do steroids at the age of 14. Um, they should know that. Kids should know if they want to have a future in somewhere, then they're not going to take steroids or PEDs or use drugs. It's common sense if you want to go to college or if you want to go to the pros for it. So I think it's unnecessary too, because if you're a real hard worker and you want to have a future in a sport that you play, then don't take drugs, because um, there's some points where I can see the school or someone taking out the test and then taking the test out and drug testing you, because say you do drugs and you get tested. That's where I can see the school's point of view from it, because if you're a really hard worker and you use it, then you're done. But I feel like the real hard workers, then they shouldn't then then they shouldn't take drugs, and I feel like it's common sense for that. And I think that'll wrap it up.
Yeah.
Um, that is all of our opinions and point of views from each of the kids and the parents on taking drugs. And me and Teddy both personally do not agree
Yeah.
for schools drug testing them.